All right, welcome back to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We're now joined by Mike Ferrin of MLB Radio. Mike, how are you?
I'm good, Bull. It's good to be with you.
It's good to be with you as well, and thanks for taking the time. You're not off? No show today?
No show today. No, with all our stuff going on in Philadelphia, I got a rare off day on the All-Star Game day, so I'm just gonna enjoy the fact that we had a muggy morning in Phoenix, which is very strange. So
I know. By the way, I gotta text you because I think my family and I'm taking the family out to Arizona in February or March. So
good.
I need a game plan rundown from you of where to go.
Well, I'm going to be in Cleveland actually for the series right before the All-Star break, so maybe we'll hook up then.
All right, good. Sounds good. Mike, let's start with the draft, obviously. What was your overall grade or whatever, your analysis of how you thought the Guardians did in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not real comfortable throwing grades on drafts just
Sure.
because like we haven't seen these guys go. But I thought, like my first blush, and I actually asked around to the Guardians amateur scouting department about this. Like, it felt like they dove into their philosophy a little bit more at the top, which has been, the thing that they've been really good at is developing pitching, and that's kind of what it looked like to me. It turns out that wasn't the case. It was just more the way that the draft fell to them, but I think that there was a lot to really like about it. Liam Peterson, he had a really weird college career in that his stuff got better, but his command never did. And the thing is that he was like that classic projectable high school guy where you felt like the stuff was going to get better, but he had really good command. And so he's got a long track record of being famous and success. So I really liked that fit more than anything. When he went off the board to the Guardians, I went, "Oh, okay, like they're going to get the most out of Liam Peterson." Logan Schmidt is a dude. He was one of the best prep pitchers in the class. I thought that was a really good pick. I love Savion Sims. I mean, that's the guy that's going to get a ton of overslot money. So they really leaned into that pitching wise. I thought that was good. And the position players are interesting too. I mean, I saw a lot of Cade Lewis and Lucas Moore over the last couple of seasons. I think Lewis can really hit. I think the power is probably a little bit short for first base, but I wouldn't be surprised if it develops a little bit better. And Moore is like, I hope you get a chance to talk to Lucas Moore about base stealing sometime, because he talks like elite base stealers talk about the craft of running the bases. I'm curious to see what the bat is like. There's probably more chase there than you would want for a top of the lineup type hitter, but he can really play the outfield. He's really fast and he is super smart. So there's a lot of it. And that's, and he's a Cincinnati kid, I think too. So he's an Ohio guy. I mean, I realize that's the wrong side of the state, but at the same time, like, I think that there were some very interesting picks a little bit further down as well.
After the promotion of Gavin and Bybee, and then obviously Espino's had the injuries, the Guardians pitching seems to have valleyed out a little bit in terms of prospects. Does this, these two guys help sort of reload them? And then is there a comp for Liam?
I would say yes, it does reload them a bit, and I would even go beyond, those three guys: Peterson, Schmidt, Sims. I mean, all of those guys are premium prospects. Like Matt Scott is a classic. Like I think he's a guy that gets better in the Guardians pitching program as well, who I think they would likely develop him as a starter. He kind of did both at Georgia this last year, but he's got a really intriguing pitch mix. So yeah, I think it replenishes some of that. It takes multiple drafts to do that though, because the attrition rate on pitching is so difficult to try and predict because pitchers get hurt, right? So you end up missing a year and a half of development. I mean, Espino's a great, example of that. He was a tremendous prep prospect, right? And he was throwing 100 before a lot of other prep guys were throwing 100. And you see the injuries that he's had over the last 3 years, and that can really derail you. So from a depth standpoint, I think it definitely impacts that. As for what I would see Peterson is, I don't know that I have a great comp for him. What I can say is I think that there's a chance that he ends up being like a number 3 type starter. I think the odds are more likely that he's a 4, which if you're picking at 19, that's a pretty damn good pick. So he's got a bigger fastball than a lot of the other Guardians pitchers have had, right? Like they have found the pitchability guys and then added velocity too, and they've had success with that. He comes ready made with 98, 99. He's already seen the velocity increases. And I think the fastball probably plays a little differently than Gavin Williams does. But I think he kind of slots towards the middle of the rotation if he hits the ceiling. And if not, it's probably more like a number 4 or 5 type starter who, has good stuff but command issues. That's kind of what he looks like right now, but I think they can tease more out of him. But that said, I want to make this clear. Like, if you're picking 19th and you get a guy that, like, let's say is a big league starter for 3 years, you've done pretty well for yourself. The stars come in the first, handful of picks. They don't tend to come at 19, although pitching comes from everywhere. Yeah. So anything that they get out of him that if he is, a major league starter for a couple of years is a really good result.
Mike, the Guardians got 3 notable rookies that have fans excited, and Parker Messick, Chase DeLauder, and Travis Bazzana. Talk about those 3 young men and what you love most about each one of them.
Well, I mean, for Messick, it's just the competitiveness, man. I called his big league debut out here in Phoenix last year, and it was so incredible the way he just was on the attack constantly. He gets more out of his stuff than most other guys do. It's not, the fastball's ticked up a little bit, but it's not like he's overpowering. The changeup is a great pitch. But I think his competitiveness is something that really stands out to me, and that's one of the things I love about him. DeLauder, the only thing that derailed Chase DeLauder really from his junior year in college on was injuries, right? Like that was what limited him. Getting the foot issues behind him, knock on wood that they're past him, because he is a really good all-round hitter. And I don't think the power has come quite yet. That's usually the last thing to come, even for a college guy like him. You think about how much time he's missed in development. I think that's something that will come a little bit later as the year goes on. I know he had the big opening weekend power-wise and everybody got excited, but it's ability to use the whole field and work a count that really stands out to me. And then, like when it comes to Bazzana, I mean, listen, I'm still in the camp that I'm not convinced that Bazzana is going to be a long-term answer at second base. I think he may be more like a left field profile, but clearly what you've seen is that the guy can take a walk. He knows how to get on base. He's a really smart ball player. He's really strong. I think that the fact that his peers recognized him, even though he didn't debut till the end of April as an all-star, was really incredible. And I think that some of that speaks to the second base this year in the American League just hasn't been great. But I think, 10 years ago, we wouldn't have seen the players voting a rookie in that spot. You would have had somebody who was kind of a retread moved into it. And so for him to do that, I think, it shows you how the other players around the game feel about him. And I think he's going to be a really good player for a long time. I don't know that he's going to be a perennial all-star. I think DeLauder has the highest ceiling of the 3 of those guys. Like, I think he's the one who has a chance to make multiple all-star games if he can get to the power. But I think all 3 of them are really exciting. And it's one of the things that I'm and Bull, this because we've talked about it. Like, I was pretty bullish on some of their young hitters, and not all of them have produced the way that I was hoping that they would. But with guys like DeLauder and guys like Bazzana, like it gives you a much better base to work from that they can try and build this offense around, because clearly that's been the major issue for the last decade.
No doubt. And it's been big to see Rocchio develop this year, and he's having a nice season. But it's been, but it's been the other thing, like on the opposite side, Stephen Kwan, and obviously in July he's heating up a little bit, but it's only been 30 at-bats. He's been a total disaster for 3 months leading up to July. It's weird to see a guy who, he doesn't have power and whatever, but he's been such a good hitter since he's been in the big leagues, and he's just had no command of the strike zone. I think it's a lot of mental stuff going on with him, and he's talked about some imposter syndrome he's had earlier in his career. Do you expect him to be a good hitter for the second half of the season, or are you concerned that even though he's gotten hot here for the last week or two, that you're worried about him the whole rest of the season?
Yeah, it's a great question, because remember, his second half last year wasn't
not great
good either. And it wasn't really until September that he kind of got going again. Listen, I don't think that his idea of the strike zone has changed much. and I haven't dove into his at bats, but he's walking at the highest rate of his career, and well, that's good in that he's creating on base opportunities that are way better than a 225 average should have. It does make me wonder if he's been a little bit passive,
Yeah.
and if he has, is part of that because he hasn't felt good at the plate, right? Timing is a really cruel thing for hitters. Like if you are not on time, it ruins everything. And getting back on time, seems like it should be easy, right? Like, hey man, just time up a fastball. Let's go work in the cage. It's going to go. It's not as easy as it sounds. And so could he have gone through a stretch where for 5 months of baseball, he wasn't on time? Absolutely. I think that that's entirely possible. I think there's probably a little bit of bad luck in this as well. I think, defenses are probably better at positioning him. Everybody's positioning gets better and better because it's not like he's going to have a ton of thump to be able to, force outfielders deeper, right? So I think it's just a matter of like, let's see if he's on time with the fastball. And if you start seeing driving fastballs gap to gap, I think you'll know that he's back. And it doesn't have to be for extra base hits. It's just line drives, right? Even if they're outs, I think you can feel better about where he's at because clearly the idea of the strike zone hasn't changed. And I think that gives me a little bit of hope that if he can get it down timing wise, that he's going to be in good shape. They need him.
Yeah,
Hey, Mike, we've spent a ton of time talking about possible trade deadline targets for the Guardians. Last week, we asked Bull to send us a few. He sent us 12, which is more than a few. So I'm curious, in your mind, is there one ideal target for Cleveland at the deadline to boost their chances at a deep playoff run and hopefully a berth in the World Series?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that there's just not like really sexy names that it feels like are going to be available, especially ones that fit what the Guardians need, which to me is somebody who hits right-handed who has some power, right? I think that's something that it's something they could use for a long time. And Hoskins has provided a little bit of that. I know the average is low, but they kind of need somebody else. So you guys will get a kick out of this. We've been batting around like the names of who are the right-handed hitters that are going to be available at the deadline. And like the best might be Lane Thomas.
No.
Stop it. Nope. Nope.
I'm just telling you, like, he's had a really nice year for Kansas City.
He's been
he
good
mashes
lately,
lefties.
especially.
Yeah, he's like Brandon Geyer without the hit by pitches, right? So like he's kind of the names that you're looking at. I would not get caught up in any of the super sexy names right now. I don't think the Guardians are going to be in on anybody super sexy anyway, unless I don't know. Maybe if the
Can I give
Mets
you one name,
decide
Mike? Can I give you my top guy?
and get it back? Yeah, who's your guy?
Aroldis Chapman.
So I mean, Boston's a half game out of a playoff spot. They're not moving.
Yeah, they're back in the
like
mix. They've
that-
won like 7 in
yeah.
a row.
Yeah,
9 in
so
a
like
row.
I would take them off the table. And I think here's the thing is that like we are not going to know for another 2.5 weeks who all of the sellers are. I
Yeah.
think there's going to be way more than people are anticipating right now. I think there's some wishful thinking going on with teams like Toronto, right? Like that team has not played consistently well all season long. Like that's a team that feels like they're going to be in sell mode. Detroit, but most of what Detroit has to offer is pitching. Although like Matt Vierling would be a fit for the Guardians, like if they were to move. Baltimore, right? Like they're fooling themselves, I think, if they think that they're in the race. Taylor Ward would be a really nice fit there. San Diego could be a team that I think is on the other outside looking in. The Washington Nationals, like those guys. Who's I think an interesting name too that would fill a lot of holes for the Guardians is Spencer Steer, who is getting hit on a little bit in Cincinnati.
We talked about him.
And plays a bunch of different positions, hits lefties well. He's not like a star, but like he's a really good 6th or 7th hole hitter, which means he might hit 5th for the Guardians right now because of where their offense is. So like, but still, like he's a good player, like a really good player. Those are the kind of guys that I think could still be available, but we're not going to know until these teams get more clarity or at least wake up and smell the roses.
Mike, some of those guys were on my list, especially Taylor Ward, who I thought would be a good fit, and Spencer Steer. I'm probably shooting too high with this one, and who knows what this team is always, they don't know what the hell they're doing. But could Joe Adele be on the move by any chance?
Sure. So I think the Angels are really interesting. In fact, I was just on the phone talking about the Angels with somebody right before I came on with you guys.
Okay.
So John Mozeliak, the former president of baseball operations for the Cardinals, is now running the show in Anaheim, and he is going to take a much different look at this. Here's what's going to happen. If the Angels make moves at the deadline, you will know that John Mozeliak has autonomy. If he doesn't make moves, it means that John Mozeliak's leaving at the end of the year and he can't deal with ownership, and that everybody should be very afraid of that job. Like, that's legitimately what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, like, if he's got autonomy, they have interesting names, right? So, like, Reed Detmers is, I think, a pretty interesting starter. I think he's actually a great candidate for the White Sox. Jose Soriano could be a team that's interested. I think he's a little inconsistent for me to give up a huge return based on how much team control he has, but it's a name that they would have to consider. And Adele is another. He's started to swing the bat better of late, but here's the issue with Adele. He is a dreadful outfielder, and I mean bad. It has never gotten better. And listen, I get that the Guardians have tried to squeeze a lot of square pegs into round holes by playing infielders in the outfield. And I think JT McGuire is one of, like, the rising star outfield coaches in baseball with the Guardians. Like, I think, like, listening to his process sounds a lot like Dave McKay, who's, like, the best outfield coach ever. And so I think that they might be able to tease a little bit out of him, but it's like on a John Kenzie Noel kind of level of bad outfield play. So I don't know if he's a great fit. The power certainly would be, but he also just doesn't create a lot of traffic on the base paths. And that's something else that they need, is like, they kind of need guys that get on base as well. And I don't know if that's the right fit, but he certainly would be an intriguing name, because I think everybody still feels like they could tease more out of Joe Adele, even though he's got, 4.5 years in the big leagues.
Yeah. Mike, last thing, I got to get my Cubs question in before we go. Oh, Earl, you have one more on the Guardians?
Yeah, I did have one on the Guardians, Mike. It seemed like to me, as a casual baseball fan, diehard Cleveland fan, that Chris Antonetti seems to do the most with the least when it comes to, resources available to him.
Oh.
And then you see Stephen Vogt, third season here with the Guards, 2-time manager of the year. We done won the division twice, and we're right there, top of the division league going into the All-Star break. What is it about Stephen Vogt that he's able to match that energy of Antonetti and get the most out this team when it seems like he can be given more, to work with, but he still seems to be getting the most out of this current team? What is it about him that's able to do that?
Have you ever talked to Stephen Vogt before?
I have not.
So I encourage you to do that at some point, because he's one of the most real human beings you'll ever meet. And I think that's what it is that, so like, I am, as Bull knows, an unabashed Stephen Vogt fan. And I've known Voter for a long time. I absolutely love him as a human being. His level of care for people is off the charts. He wants everybody around him to be as successful as possible. And I think that's what his superpower is. He can make you feel comfortable really, really quickly. He cares about you. He cares about baseball. He cares to give you the opportunities to get the most out of your talent. And so that's why I think Stephen Vogt is as good as what he is at the job. He's exactly the kind of person you would want to work for, regardless of what industry you're in. And that's why I think it works. And I do think you're right. Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff do more with less, but they're also really good people. And I think that they're all aligned in that. And I think that that's what really helps to drive the Guardians organization. Is I get it's frustrating as a Guards fan that, like, they just can't seem to get that one piece that puts them over the top. And I get frustrated with it too. And I tell them that I get frustrated with it. But these guys are, I think, not just really good executives, but good human beings. And what they continue to do in keeping the Guardians, like, think about how bad the Guardians were in the 70s and 80s, right? Like how back in the Cleveland Indians days, how brutal it was.
Yep.
With these guys in charge, you don't have to worry about that. The step backs are 1 year, maybe 2.
Yeah.
And really in that division right now, there's no reason to step back. So I think that they're just really well aligned, and I think a lot of it has to do with the care that they give to the people that are around them.
Last thing, real quick, Mike. Cubs' entire pitching staff is on the injured list. Do you expect them to be aggressive
Yes.
in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah. I would say 2 starters and 2 relievers are probably within play. And like one of those starters will probably be more like a back end swing guy. But I mentioned Detmers as being a good candidate for the White Sox. I think he's a great candidate for the Cubs too.
Yeah.
I think if the Tigers continue to fade, and like they'd been playing much better. They lost the series to Philly before the weekend. That's cool. That's like, it happens. But I'm not sure that they're going to be able to get back into it. But they have 3 really intriguing starting pitchers. In Skubal, obviously, is going to be the biggest name. Casey Mize is a free agent after this year.
Yep.
Jack Flaherty is as well. And Flaherty quietly has been throwing the ball much better over the last 2 months. Yeah. So they line up pretty well. I think with Detroit, Scott Harris worked with the Cubs for a long time, the president of baseball operations for the Tigers. It would not be surprising to see them make a deal there for maybe a starter and a reliever. But I think that they will add pitching. That position player group is really good. And, I was talking to somebody about them last week, and I kind of regret saying this. I was like, they still kind of need the dude in the lineup. And they chastised me for saying, come on, this offense is pretty complete. It's pretty good. And I still haven't quite wrapped my head around the fact that Pete Crow Armstrong is now all of a sudden like a really selective hitter. But he's the 900 OPS monster that they needed. And that they had in the first half with Kyle Tucker, but last year. But he's the guy. So they have a guy there. The rest of that lineup is really, really good. All they need to do is augment it with competent pitching, and I think they'll be in pretty good shape. But I think it's 2 starters and 2 relievers is what I would guess.
Mike is the host of the best show on MLB Radio, Power Alley, except when Jim Bowden's on. Then it struggles a little bit. It's a little rough.
I'll tell him you said that.
I'm just kidding. No, it's a great show, and Mike knows college baseball better than anybody I know. I mean, he's all over it. Thank you for taking the time, Mike. Hope to get to see you when you're in Cleveland next time. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. I hope so too. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Sounds good. Mike Ferrin from MLB Radio.
Good stuff.
Good insight on the Guardians, on the minor leagues, on the draft picks, and more. When we come back,